Last year, Rick and I were at a watershed assessment meeting at the district offices, where the contractor that did some upper watershed assessments gave a bit of a presentation on their findings. And at that time, one thing concerned us, and that was District and Lake Country staff came forward with a position statement on upper watersheds. And I'll read it out. I've got the wording pretty well. I'd asked for it to be emailed to me, but I never got it. The DLC position statement was, we are opposed to any recreational activities in, on, or near any water source in the watershed. And for us as users who are on those lakes fishing, we're in the watersheds hunting, hiking, camping with our families, that was quite concerning. And just on a show of hands, maybe from our candidates, do any of you support that position from DLC staff?
Should we speak to it maybe? Because
Or
that's a yes or no answer is probably not
it was
sufficient.
It was quite concerning to us that it was an absolute. That and when Patty read it out, it was for us that it was kind of jaw-dropping that that was staff's position, and we were fearful that it would come to council when we weren't around to be represented for our interests.
So from my point of view, what that statement was probably referring to was about high intensity uses on there, which would have been the sale of the lease lots and overdevelopment of it, because we wanted to protect that watershed. Also there, I mean, you've seen pictures on CHBC before about mud boggers ruining the water supply and that type of thing. You know, they're not talking about a recreational fisherman out there quietly throwing a fly into the water and fishing. It's about some of those uses that endanger the public's ability to get safe drinking water. So, you know, to answer your question in a very simple way, it's difficult to. It's more about what are the uses and how impactful are they on that watershed. So, I that's what I would have to discuss about.
James?
Yeah, part of that, and I'm not privy to it, but we, by policy, recognize that we have multi-use watersheds. Cattle ranging, mining, forestry, recreation on the lake. But the staff, and particularly the water quality staff, are dealing with health, who is telling us that we have to spend $160 million to put in filtration and get our water up to whatever. And so they're saying, well, if you're saying we have to spend that kind of money, what are you doing about water quality in the watershed? And so that certainly would be the staff. The less use there is in the watershed, the more pristine the source, then the less money you have to spend at treating it. But as I say, we're not going anywhere with that in the province in terms of cutting down use. But forest practices have changed. They're doing a whole lot more to make sure the silt doesn't get to the lake that we have to deal with. The cattle they're doing some really innovative sort of passive fencing using logs that are going back to the ecology or environment, and not just barbed wire everywhere or whatever. So the working with the users and including recreation users in terms of what where they can launch their boats or where they can use the campsites, and it's certainly come a long way from what wide open forestry. We don't have mines yet, but Kelowna is concerned about mining, particularly around McCullough Lake with the uranium strikes. There is a uranium ore. We have uranium ore about be a concern for us in the watershed. But, and if staff was sort of interpreting council policy that we want nothing happening in the watershed, that's not the case. We know it's gonna happen, but we want to see that it's done in a manner that doesn't degrade the watershed. So.
Thanks, James. Any other candidates?
Yeah,
Bill?
partly that goes back to my statement earlier, is that sometimes we do things in isolation, and we made a statement in this case, or we make a policy or regulation just in isolation without taking into effect, is that adversely going to affect somebody else? Is that really the intent of what we want in the broader scheme? And then bring in the people, the stakeholders, to bring awareness to that before it comes out with that statement, instead of having to backtrack and redo stuff. So I would ask that we would do more upfront rather than trying to coming from behind.
Jayson?
Thanks, Ron. You know, I guess my only response is that it would seem to me that it's a pretty strong position from staff, and James has indicated that perhaps they may have misinterpreted the direction from council. I'm not sure, but I think part of the challenge in government everywhere is when you have people in a bureaucracy that feel that their position on things is more important than anyone else's, and they make strange statements or take very strong positions that may be in their best interest, but may not be considering the interests of other organizations or groups or people or other levels of government perhaps even. So I think that what we have to make sure is that our staff understand that you need to be a little bit more, reflective isn't the right word, but a little bit more consideration for the position of other people as well.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, Matt.